Okay, you ready?
Ready.
All right, welcome to the January 15th, 2019 Bristol Planning Commission. And it is, let's see, 8. And we're gonna start with the agenda tonight.
Hey, Bill.
And here's Bill. And to see, does anyone have any additions, removals, or adjustments to the agenda? Should we add a discussion of this latest Green Lantern proposal? Should we add that?
But that's on here, right?
No, this is the one in the landfill.
Oh, this is
The
the
industrial space.
okay, different.
Okay, so let's talk about that number 5, new old business. I do have another question. Who's taking minutes?
I don't know.
Oh, I can if you want. Do you want me to?
Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay, that would
Is that
be
okay with
great.
you?
Chris, is
you run
that
for
okay with
Jeff.
you?
Well, you guys are supposed to take down minutes for these meetings.
Well, we can always change that, but that was an idea we were testing out.
Yes,
I
that's
can do
right.
it.
All right, Sue's gonna do it. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna add that on to number 5. So we have no public hearings, and I did have a updated agenda, which I sent out the wrong one. So we do not need to approve October 30th minutes, but we do need to approve November 20th, 2018 minutes. And,
I do have a copy of them.
okay,
I'll take-
these are the ones you took,
Yep,
correct?
yeah.
Um,
They're posted as draft on the website.
Right, right. Did you have any corrections or any changes?
No,
Okay.
No.
They look good to me when I read them.
Did you adjust them before
I
they
did
got
not
posted?
adjust them.
Okay. Then they're great.
They're great.
They're perfect.
So,
The
Did you read the
minutes from
minutes?
our last
Yes.
meeting. Do
Yes.
you want to look at them?
Yes, I just did.
okay, we really should be reading the minutes, okay,
Yeah.
folks? Actually, Chris, if you have copies, it'd be great if you could, if it's on the agenda, if you could bring them to the table. Okay, so, any comments on the minutes?
No, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes of November 20th, 2018 are approved. And, okay, so now we're at number 4, administrative matters, if any. So I just put this little note down here when I was swamped and overwhelmed, delegation. So I had a little family, I had a sort of family thing going on and found that I was really juggling a lot of things, and I think we all need to figure out a way to maybe delegate a little bit more. We have this energy plan coming up, and we're going to also start working with the update of the town plan. Chris, did you and Valerie were
She was in closed door all day,
today?
yesterday.
Okay, because I thought you guys were gonna talk earlier.
After you said that, I talked to her on Friday, said we need to meet Monday, and then she was in meetings all day Monday, closed
Okay,
door.
do you know anything to move forward on that?
No, I was waiting for her, she's sitting on it. It's,
Okay, that would have been good. I could have probably looked into that. All right, so we don't know how we're gonna move forward with the plan. I know there was acceptance. We need to have it accepted and signed. I think she's done that, hasn't she? That's been done.
The municipal planning.
The municipal planning
Yeah.
grant. Okay, so I'm sorry, I just jumped around on that. But for delegation, does anyone have, I mean, Anna and I had a long talk about it. Anna's pretty stretched with the new baby, so
You know.
we just had not the
We were
best.
trying to manage it.
We're
and
not the
realized
best
that
team right now, so we need a backup.
Her backup did not know that she was going to have a child when she said, "Sure, I'll be the vice chair." And that's just a reality. And
So,
so,
I don't know if anyone wants us to, and I don't know how we have to do it officially, if we were to have a different vice chair or somehow officially share some of the, my dad is just going through, a series of treatments for the next few months, and I just might not be able to make it, and I don't know how that's all gonna work. So I think we need another reliable person to raise their hand and say, I'll be number 2 or help in number 1, you know, and you've done
So
your
we would
fair
do that,
share.
okay, but we have to be careful.
I know.
We would have an
I
organizational
know,
meeting in
I
order
know.
to elect a new chair or
Right.
vice chair, okay?
But maybe
That's
we
not what
could
this is.
do, that's not what this
Yeah.
is. Maybe if everyone is just aware and we can, you know, be willing to jump in and help out if I, you know, needed an agenda or just, you know, so we've got 2 projects going on and that's basically what we'll be working on.
Right, they're big.
So, yeah. And I don't know who is, for the plan, we'll get to that. Okay, so it's basically, I just wanted to tell people that.
Yeah.
I don't know how, you know.
It's more like having an unofficial but designated alternate for me. I think that's really what we're talking about. Nothing official and formal and redesignated. I will obviously be your backup if I am able to. But it might be that Katie has to be away and she pings me and says, hey, can you cover? And I have a sick kid and then I can't do anything. You know, it's not an unwillingness, it's just dealing with just
Right.
practical realities.
And I say I do tend to defer to Sue, and that's not necessarily always fair, because she's done her fair share of leading
So far,
the
so good.
ship. Okay, so just be aware you may get tapped. Right, Bill? I asked him if he wanted to be chair. He said no.
Thank you. I did that once.
Okay, so that's what that meant. And I just wanted,
So we'll be open to and watching for even last minute
right,
calls for support.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So under new old business, we have the grant we received. I don't know if we've had a meeting since then, but we received that grant, and that's great. And we need to find out the next step. So we've accepted everything. And I think
one of the questions is like, how would we, because Claire has now left the Regional Planning Commission, and she was,
yeah,
you know, had offered or
So-
was partnering with us and helped us write the budget,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was contingent on them being, or her specifically being the consultant who would support us.
maybe.
What would,
Right.
so what would Addison County Regional
So
Planning
I
Commission
spoke with
say?
Adam on that, and his response was they would still be, they would still do it. They're hiring her replacement, and it would either be the replacement or somebody else. So
There was also, with the amount of our grant, there was also the option of hiring an outside consultant. That's
Right.
also a possibility.
correct, whether we put it out to bid or not,
Right.
and that was the discussion that Valerie was looking into. Her and I discussed that a couple
Oh,
weeks ago,
okay.
and she was looking into whether A, we have to put it out to bid, and B, if we do, what's the process?
Right. Okay. So that's what we need to find out next.
Yes.
And so it is obviously taking a lot longer than we initially thought, but
Well,
we have a
if Claire
plan.
hadn't left, would we be starting that right now?
Yeah,
Would we
probably.
have her here at this meeting, for instance?
No, I mean, the whole thing is started, you know, because we decided to go for a grant. You
Right.
know, first we were gonna quick fix, but,
Yeah.
you know, that was
The grant's a
idealistic.
better idea.
It is a much better idea. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be great, so, yes, Ian?
How much was the grant for?
The grant was for, almost 20,000.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like 17, I think. Sticks
With the
in my head.
match, yeah, right. Originally 15, and then with the match, it's 17.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's all that, you know, we'll follow up, you'll follow up, I'll
Yeah.
follow up. Because I just, you know, I was behind and I just contacted Valerie last week and there wasn't a lot of time to really, and a lot of other things were going on. Yes,
Could you
Mary?
clarify to the audience what grant you're talking about?
Okay. We applied, the town of Bristol and the planning commission applied for a municipal planning grant to get funds to update / rewrite our town plan. And that,
The funds would support a professional planner.
and the funds, I don't know if they come through as regional planning or do they come right to Bristol, do you know?
I think they come here and then they're dispersed out.
Okay. And so we just received that in December. Okay, let's see. So the enhanced energy plan. Why don't we just get an update on that? So do you want to talk?
So we met last month. Was the first
Yes.
time that we met.
Right.
It was the
The
night we
day
were
that
supposed
we
to
were
meet.
going to meet.
Right.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so we started to go through. It was actually productive for our first meeting. We started to go through, work through the off of a template that regional planning's been using with some of the other towns that have already gone through this.
You met
And
with
then-
Andrew
Yes.
LaRoe?
Yep. So we met with him and then made some progress, and then it morphed into a Google Doc and we were supposed to meet. We're going to meet next Tuesday to go further along.
Did you talk about like what are the first steps?
So with this, what we're looking at is basically a template and wording, and then there's also the maps that go along with it, like like Chris had set out, basically that same kind of
Oh, okay.
map.
Okay.
And going, and then also we eventually citing on there, you know, if there are preferred areas and that kind of stuff.
And this is for citing of,
It's one of the components
One of the
to
components.
it. Yeah.
And it's citing for all forms
Yes.
of production.
Okay, so these are these maps that we're going to see up here.
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of an overlay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a GIS overlay with multiple layers that have constraints that would inhibit production or siting of different.
The second light switch.
So,
Excuse me?
Just dim so that
That's
it will
it,
show
that's
up on the
fine.
screen for her.
Done.
That helps.
That was quick though.
So,
Slide over this. Mary, I'm gonna move. I don't know if this mic's gonna need to move.
So what Andrew presented, it was at the moment it's a 28-page document, and it's a draft that's sort of been pulled from other towns that he's worked with. And what we did, we sort of looked at it, just an overview of the whole thing, just very briefly. We did a little bit of the map work, just sort of seeing the maps that have already been created and the recommendations for Bristol. And then we started to go just looking at, he'd had sections in this 28-page draft that he'd highlighted as areas that we need to start working on with our own particular wording. And so we actually just started tackling, I think it was on, it was like the 7th page or 8th page, looking at goals, looking at policies, and recommended actions. So essentially this, one of the things we also discussed was, does this 28 pages become part of the town plan? Does it replace the current energy plan that's in there? And we add 28 pages or whatever it's going to be, or is it a
appendix.
It's like
an appendix
Oh, interesting.
of the town?
Yes.
Yeah, so what needs to happen is in the town plan, we do have an energy section, but
Correct.
it introduces, there may be other pieces to it,
Right.
but then it introduces this work and cites it,
Well, I think it might, part of it
or some
would
of it.
essentially be replacing all of it in the current town plan, and this enhanced energy plan would become.
Yeah.
The energy
Section.
plan, Yeah.
And,
But it does need, they do need to talk to each other a little bit, so I know
Correct.
that that's,
Yeah.
but
But
we don't want to put it in there.
And that's what the
Well, that was-
conversation was
Yeah.
how it's going to be handled. And, you know, it may not be appropriate to just dump it right in as is. It may need to be combined with what we currently have or what we're going to have, or it's because of the size of it and the overall size of our town plan, is it appropriate to be a separate, as an appendix instead of half the document is
Right.
now just the energy plan? You know, that
Right.
was the discussion we were having.
Or it could be maybe a certain summary page,
yes.
and then,
One thing is just that getting lost. You have then multiple large documents that you're turning to, and so I was suggesting that it goes in as one piece. Given how large it is, just because it's there and this contains single document, even though it's large, it's just everything is there, as opposed to a subsection of it being there, and then you have to refer to this other document to then get to the sort of the nuts and bolts of it. I was just concerned that it may be overlooked or something. I don't know.
Question about the practicality, and this is just like logistics. I have to agree that I think it makes sense to lose the thing, but is this something that we would be looking at needing to update in any kind of regular way more often than our town plan? And if so, if it is an appendix that we reference, is that simpler to do rather than to get the entire town plan reapproved by the entire town at a town meeting or by vote? That would be the only benefit I see of, there's a section in it that references an appendix. It's like, oh, we just had a small correction to make. I know that's a pain, but it does, previous experience seems to indicate that's helpful.
I mean, the basic, in the town plan, the energy section should be your overview. I look at it very similar to as our zoning is. We talk about land use in the town plan. It's at a high level. It's at a plan level. And then the nuts and bolts are your bylaws. It's your enhanced energy plan. Those are standalone documents. So, and the other part is I don't believe the energy plan has to go for town approval. I think select board approval. You modify you put it in the town plan. Any modification, as Anna said, has to go through voter approval. Okay. And if the energy plan may stop the entire, if that's somebody has one hang up with the energy plan, it could bring the entire town plan to a failure. So
and we want it to be successful and be smooth.
And that has happened in other towns.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know.
So with the, was it Act 148? What is the, with the enhanced?
174.
174, sorry. With that, does that, I thought I understood that it had to be, we just have to have an enhanced energy plan, or is that it has to be in the town plan?
Good question.
The first, I think you have to have, let me look it up.
We can look at that.
That's where I was getting.
But even
And Andrew can help us with this too. He can help us with
I don't think we need to get hung up on that.
How do other towns handle this? What are they doing?
I think they're working it out right now because it's kind of new.
Same as us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
But those are good questions.
And they've been, the template that we started with is from what regional planning's been working with other towns.
And when you, Chris, those documents that you sent out shows the example of Salisbury's.
Yep,
It's
that's
the
one they just
format.
completed.
It's our same format.
Exactly.
So it looks like, Adam worked with us on our zoning regs. He did
And the
work
town
with us. Oh, and the town plan, yes, right, of course.
He was our
So-
third resource.
Yes,
It's been around for a while.
he helped, they introduced that format,
Yeah.
which is a format they're obviously promoting, with other towns.
Okay. So appendix sounds good. I think it would just be, making sure that what's in the town plan is very clear, that you're leading to
Right.
the enhanced plan when you're making your decisions.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be in just sort of comments and reviews of plans that I've seen, some of the issues that come up the most. Plans not clearly referencing these other documents and talking to
Leading
Yeah.
gray areas.
But
Could I ask you a question? Several months ago, it might have been 6 months ago, it might have been a year ago, I was under the impression that the state has the final say of whether or not our solar array goes where we're supposed to be, okay? So, are we somewhat believers that the state will take into account what our feelings are?
We're in a better position if we have an enhanced energy plan.
Yeah.
So you
That's
get
the
a stronger.
primary goal with doing the enhanced energy plan is having a little bit more of a voice with the state and
What was it called, like preferential something?
deference.
Deference, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
and this plan is basically we're identifying preferred sites. Were you here when we were talking about this?
Right, I remember.
And if a developer or whoever puts their project on a preferred site, they actually benefit financially from that.
Right.
This is what I believe. That is true.
But
It
there
is.
are,
It's the biggest reason for it.
So it is,
yeah.
behooves them to follow
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. This gives us some room to work with the state as opposed to maybe a decade from now being told what to do to meet certain needs,
Yeah.
you know, demands by 2050
makes
or
sense.
by 2025 and by 2035.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you're meeting again
Next Tuesday,
on Tuesday.
the 22nd.
Does it make sense, so after that meeting, do you anticipate what do you anticipate accomplishing there so that we might,
I see it as just more progress. I don't
Yeah.
know about any sort of,
Yes.
I don't know, maybe
And very slow. I mean, he said we
Yeah,
actually
of
made
course.
some progress, more than what he thought,
yeah,
but we were literally just going over sentences of
Yeah.
what, you know, do we use fuels? Do we use energy? There's,
so
you
he's,
can look at it a number of ways. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a complex thing, and there's 5 of us working on that, but it needs to then go to you, the entire commission, to sort of
Right.
look at it
right.
as well before it even, is placed into public arena.
So you're using the template to populate
Correct.
with Bristol information
Right.
in order
Yes.
to best
and we're
make a
also,
proposal.
yes, and we're
Okay.
also tweaking that for us.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
we can, we were trying to figure out the way to do that. Each one of us was sort of either on the computer or scribbling down notes. He's gonna use just a single Google Doc since it's the most sort of shareable, interactive version. He's gonna have a version where he can actually write to everyone else who can just view it.
Yeah.
But we can also share that with anyone
Right.
else who wants to see that document. And you can look at it and make comments as well, if you have concerns or thoughts and things
Right.
like that.
And it helps to know like where it is,
Right,
right?
exactly.
So rather than sort of put it out to everybody and say, here, keep a look.
Yeah,
With us not knowing exactly where you are, it might seem,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
full or complete or,
but he's done a lot of work. I mean, based on the work that he'd done on previous with other towns. It's all there in the 28
Yes.
pages. There's just every other page has something highlighted that he was questioning for Bristol,
Yeah.
like what do you want for here? What should be worked over in terms of this terminology or wording? That's that first pass.
so I'm wondering about, we received an enhanced energy plan grant to work on that specifically, and from the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. So does Andrew's time get charged to that grant, Chris? And has that started to happen?
The way that works is.
I can just put it down as a question, so we have it in a minute, so we have.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know the
What?
answer to that
Okay.
question. So,
Go ahead.
at least I can try. That money pretty much stays at Addison County Regional
Yeah,
Planning.
and it covers him.
And it covers the process.
How long
there?
and how much, I guess is my question. That's
Well, the
more like
much
not how the
is
money works.
$4,000, I think it
Right.
was.
It was a certain number of hours, Adam
Yeah.
mentioned an estimate, I can't remember.
I think it was $70 an hour,
Well,
something like that.
That's gonna go pretty quickly.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I guess
yeah, it was.
does that come up, like, does he?
they're still
sort of-
gonna complete it though.
Yes.
They still have to
I think it's
complete
for-
it. They
I think
don't
it's for-
stop
it's
working
for
on it
the
when they
whole-
run out of
It's to do
money.
the whole plan.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen
Okay.
a tally of how much
Okay,
we've billed against that so far.
right.
So,
It's a fixed price contract.
What?
It's a fixed price
Yeah.
contract.
yeah.
Oh, I see. Is it? Is that how it works?
It could
Like if
be.
it takes us 100 hours, or if it
Might
takes us
be.
50 hours?
Might
They
be.
eat it?
We have to get it
I
done.
guess.
I also think
I'm just wondering.
I
if anybody
think
can tell me.
so, but
it
I
should
could
go
be wrong.
quicker. It
Okay.
could go quicker the more he does them, and it really depends on the group he's working with.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
How many reticent people there are.
Right. That's why we didn't put you on the
That's-
board.
Well, Bill got us the money.
No, oh,
You
no,
did?
No, that was a good project.
Okay, that's great. All right, well, I mean, it's gonna take a while.
Yes.
It's not gonna
Yes.
be, it's gonna be at least probably 6 months.
I think that was the estimate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the big thing we have to talk about tonight is the Green Lantern Solar proposed project. You gonna say something?
Well, right, it's on, I mean, the bigger picture is not necessarily for Green Lantern, but just site, preferred siting in general.
Right. But the reason this project, because he has been contacting, and then, you know, I was, you know, wasn't getting back, no one was getting back to him, and then he actually found me. And so I was gonna call him, but I actually talked to him on the phone last week. And I told him where we were, that we didn't, you know, we needed to have a meeting and discuss it and discuss how we wanted to proceed. And if we, you know, we wanted to look at some, you know, house, just, we needed to have a conversation about it, and that I would get back to him.
Is it Ralph Lima?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I guess we need to do two things. We need to discuss how we want to generally proceed. If we want to, I mean, we're going to look at some of these. You have an example. We have examples of a completed energy plan from a town, but isn't there also interim, or is this what the interim preferred siting criteria is?
No, there's no interim. So
Okay.
that was a so when I spoke with Adam, the two options as far as where you could go with your siting.
Right.
One would be to wait till the enhanced energy plan is completed,
Mm-hmm.
include all your siting criteria in that,
Mm-hmm.
and or create an interim set of criteria. You could base it on
Oh.
whatever you want. It's your call,
Mm-hmm.
and there's pros and cons to both directions, and
So then we would be, if we were trying to pull together an interim criteria, we would be doing something quickly that this energy committee is spending 6 months doing.
Correct.
And does that make sense? Personally, I don't think so. But then what is the other option? If we choose to wait until we're done with the energy plan, and the developer, client, wants to move forward, he can still move forward.
right. But the odds of them moving forward on this project, I mean, I thought it was made very clear that they need preferred site
Or else
for
they're not gonna do it.
for to be
Okay,
financially
well-
viable.
So then, does it make sense to do an interim criteria?
Do
What
we
is
know,
it?
for what it's worth, and I'm just asking, I don't know if it's a driving factor, but is there timeline such that they're either doing it now or not at all?
He
Do we
hasn't
even
said
know?
either way. Not to me, I've never.
No, I'm just curious
Yeah.
because, I mean, if, and I'm just playing around with this, if this is what they want to do, and they need to be designated as a preferred site to make it, you know,
Viable.
viable for them,
We do.
can they wait 6 months?
We
Is
don't
there
know.
something that's pressing them that they have to start
We
construction
don't know,
now?
that's a question we
I
need to
don't,
ask.
Is that a fair
I don't
question?
believe there is. They would like to do it
But,
sooner rather than later, but from my talks with him, it doesn't seem like there's anything pressing driving the project.
'Cause
They
I mean,
don't, they
I-
don't have off-takers for the project yet. It was just something that they were working with the landowner to develop because she's also involved with the company.
Right.
But the
So
question
then,
is, not knowing what our enhanced energy plan will be, do they do the legwork? Do they do their own legwork, like invest in the studies that need to be done? Do they do that in anticipation of an enhanced energy plan that would give us the criteria to make a decision? You know what I mean? So
Well, then you
Will
have to
they-
do that anyways.
yeah.
I mean, we could make
they're not going to
Yeah,
do
but
it if
what
they don't
if they-
make
Right.
sense that
Yeah.
we're going to not
Right,
have
right.
preferred.
You know,
we could make a decision telling them that we would prefer to wait until a point in our enhanced energy plan where we're more comfortable to make a decision about
Right.
that.
That would be one choice. Another choice would be to decide
Right.
that we think that that's a good site, just on, just
What we
This-
know,
yeah. and
what?
on what we know.
On what we know,
Do-
go
do-
look at it.
Do we
And-
have enough information?
Well,
Tonight, I mean, I can give you
Well-
some information.
okay, so we can look at what Chris, but I'm just saying, I'm just putting that as an option, that we can, and we had a presentation, there was a lot of things we learned from that presentation. I don't know if anyone's been out to the site, I haven't. And we could decide if we want to do that. And then what would be the danger in that? Is this a rhetorical question? What would be what could be the danger in
Right.
that?
You
Could
would-
that come back
Set
to
a
make
precedent.
trouble,
Yes.
set a precedent?
Yes.
I'm
That
just
we don't
throwing it
want.
out there. or once we kind of look at the site, maybe we need a little more time to look at the site and think it would probably work really well
the
with
hard
our
part is
preferred
the
site.
remote access to this site, to be honest with you, you aren't gonna get out there till spring, till the snow's gone. There's a
Right.
foot of snow on the road. I don't know if I haven't noticed if he plowed it. And we're gonna get another 2 feet, foot and a half to 2 feet of snow this weekend. I don't think it's gonna be passable unless you wanna hike out to it. But we can look at, like I said, we've got some mapping, some
Yeah.
information, and some just sort of gut check kind of information and say, yeah, you can go there,
So
or
what's interesting about the idea, I like the idea of a site visit, but I have no experience with siting solar arrays. I could go out there and go like, nice exposure. Yeah, everything's frozen, kind of looks good. I'm not qualified really to do that without some guidance.
Right, well,
But I think what we'd
Yeah.
be looking at more is it appropriate for something like that to be put there in the planning aspect of, is it appropriate to put a building there, or is it appropriate to put,
Right.
Yeah.
in that sense, not that, is this a good solar place?
Yeah.
Because I think obviously it would be stupid to say, oh, a good, location for solar arrays is in the dense wooded part of Hogback Mountain.
Right.
I mean, we're not, that's logical, right? But I think this looks from an aerial photograph like a relatively open area. It's gonna get solar exposure. I think it's more about what else is near it. Are there wetlands? What's the view shed like? All things being equal, if you look at this, when we're looking at a gravel pit, so it's not like it's attractive anyhow, right? I mean, I'm just
this
playing.
is
across the street.
This is in the farm field.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just
So-
like, do you have to look at it and say, I don't think that we are expected to make informed decisions about whether or not it's a good place for solar per se. Like, is it going to produce a lot of energy?
Right.
Experts would need to do that if we're making
Well,
that
they
decision.
would need to do that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be
So-
looking at
Well,
it.
I think we
so
should-
on the preferred site, just having done some research on like what other communities have done and how they're looking at it. I think it was Woodstock. They actually called out specific parcels that they felt that
Yeah.
were adequate. These are sites where we will grant this preferred site status. And there it's done. Or you go as far as you create a set of criteria and you review each individual project as they come in. And what the preferred site status is purely economical for the developer. Most of the criteria is to convert landfills, brownfields, gravel pits, to reuse those sites and can't do anything else with. But if they use those, they get some more money per kilowatt. The last criteria is for the planning commission, the select board, and the regional planning commission to okay it as a preferred site that's not in one of those
things, yeah.
environmentally.
Right.
It's an exception.
Yeah. So from a preferred siting standpoint is, for me, what you all should possibly be looking at, or from the energy side, is where would we want to see it? And if you look at a lot, like with the regional
Or
planning
not
commission,
see it.
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, have it, but not see it.
Correct.
That's
And
really
if you look at it, it's aesthetics is a lot of it. It's,
Yeah.
it's also what are some of the limitations as far as wetlands and wildlife and those kind of constraints. That was the document.
Utilities already in place,
Right.
that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Yeah.
There's more to it than
Basics.
just,
Well, I think what would be
Is
helpful
it
now.
pretty or not?
right.
I think what would be helpful now is to actually look at what you have, and we'll see a list of those criteria or considerations. That's really what it is.
Right. So
And that will give the board an idea of what are the things that you think about
Yeah.
when you
And
come to,
And we have
and then we can talk more about what our next step.
We have documents from Andrew. We have a PDF of all the different maps where they've sort of overlaid all of those different considerations, so we can
Right.
see. Looking at them now,
You have
Yeah.
so you have all those. Good.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had them set them along.
Projecting,
Right.
yeah.
in there.
So,
All right.
The key would be to, if we're just gonna look at it, just to
Yeah.
refamiliarize ourselves with the location, it would be good to be able to pinpoint the
yeah, here.
spot.
Let me grab that.
Right. Does someone want to give us a little narration as you go along?
Sure.
Do we want to turn this live out? Oh, we can't, can we?
No, you don't. Sorry, I turned it off, so it's slowly won't get a little bit brighter in a sec. So, this is their map they provided us.
The Green Lantern provided,
Yes.
about the site.
Yeah, so just to get our bearings, this is 116 south. Notch Road is about here. It comes down, you've got the campground in this area. This is where they're talking about placing the site. There's a farm road that comes in, it swings around. This is an open corn piece, green field. This is a hedgerow and some growth. This was sort of just a weird dumping site. This is wetlands through here. This is where they would like to place the array. They would take out this set of, all these trees would be cleared out.
I think Mr. Rathman said he'd already done that. But this was that they were working from an old Google map. And but they had, a couple of years ago, already taken all that hedgerow down.
Take a peek. I think it's this one. So here is my Interactive's map of the same site. So what you're looking at is, this is a fairly new, so they've thinned this out a lot. This is that same tree line.
Yeah.
There's still some shrubby stuff in here, and this is where they're talking about setting is in here.
Yeah.
The hedgerow is a good thing.
And it's also, it's down.
Yeah.
So what the other map that we received was this map. This is, and we can turn on some different layers here in a moment. But here's the road, the access road. Here's where they're talking about placing the siding. What you have here, the dark brown is from the GIS. That is the prime solar siting. Is what they consider prime. So it's a little. That's right on that hedgerow. That is that hedgerow when you do the overlay. If you play with them carefully.
The prime solar siting?
Yeah, it's just right on the edge of the hedgerow. Because where they stopped was, this is all prime ag. This tan, you see it's prime ag.
Yes.
So they can't, the far edge of that prime ag is right on the front edge
What's
of the
the
hedgerow.
white?
White is just no man's land.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. So you can turn on some constraints. So like if you turn on all these, anywhere stuff shows up in a moment. Those all have, for this site, this is some waterways. I gotta turn on my key.
And prime means, it doesn't mean in terms of how much energy it'll produce. It's only agriculturally, no, not exposure, nothing to do with what it can produce. It's based on the land that's there and what's there underneath the soil.
When you're referencing primary solar resource siting
Yeah,
area.
it's nothing to do with how much it'll produce. That's completely
Okay.
separate. That's what the developer is working on.
Right.
This
So
is,
what
this is
So is it talking about like, oh, well, you couldn't really grow anything
Right.
there because
Correct.
it starts to get rocky or whatever?
Right. So and it was two. Talking with they used two criteria when they did this. Is A, is there sun, and B, what are there constraints in it? So like when you put on the constraints, you see like the wetlands hack off part of it, the prime ag hack off part of it, the waterway, the brook that runs through it in its river corridor, that takes out some of what they consider prime solar siting.
It's funny that brown curve is right where that hedgerow is.
Yeah. And then this is secondary, and again, it's based on sun exposure. Because if we go back, because here's the road, and here's where it talks about is right through this area.
She's right.
So Chris, what's right there? So there's the green. Then there's, and it
This
drops
stuff?
off. Yes. What is?
It's rocky, craggy.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. All right.
It sounded like they've been filling that in slowly over
Yeah.
the
Right.
decades.
Yeah,
So
and so there's
this-
a brook that runs right here,
yeah.
and this has been backfilled with other stuff. There was, I think it was paper mill byproduct or
Yeah.
something.
Well,
What's the elevation drop from the upper field to that? I'm assuming it's to
So
the,
like
where the
from
road
here-
is and where that lighter.
Let me see.
I mean, have you been out there?
I haven't physically been out there in probably 10 years, but I don't. Oh wait, I think I'm in Yukon for a second. Oops.
What we can't see is the outline of the proposed 1 acre area.
He zoomed in so far now that
Oh, yeah.
I could almost show it for you.
I was trying to get the top off if I could get it.
You got it.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
got it.
you're not going to get the level of detail. that you
No,
want.
I don't. I'm not. So it's not. It doesn't look like a huge grade difference through there.
We'll see.
Yeah, if you go back to the previous view, Chris, right? If you're looking at that,
Yeah.
and you were
Whoops.
trying to say where's there 1 acre proposed, right? If you zoom out a little bit more, so
Yep.
we can see the bottom. The top of it is at the end of that curved little circle driveway thing.
Yeah, right here.
There.
Yeah.
And then it goes out to the edge of the green.
Here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oops.
Sorry.
Oh, I
Yeah, there you go.
Right, so this is the road. So this is that hook in the
Are
road.
you
Just
looking at the map right in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was.
Okay.
That was the map from Green Lantern,
Yeah.
outlined it, but it's the only version.
Because
it's the only copy we have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Calculating that.
So the sighting is really where that,
Yeah.
almost where that pile of white, if you go down below the hook, come down. Down. There-ish.
Yeah,
It
okay,
starts, right?
all right. And
No,
then
it
where?
starts above that.
A little
It
bit.
starts
It
right
starts
right
right
at
at
the
the
hook.
hook.
at the
At the
curve.
hook.
Yep, and it
Right
goes
there.
out to the edge of the farm field, to the
East?
left. No, to the,
No.
so yeah,
Yep.
there. And then it
West.
follows that almost straight down.
Yeah,
And then it goes to the middle of that white pile,
Yeah.
right there, straight across,
yeah, how
out to
far?
the hedgerow,
To the hedgerow.
To here.
and then diagonally up through the hedgerow there, and then back up, straight across.
So the
Yeah.
trapezoid. Sort of.
1 acre.
1 acre. So it dips down more in that bottom right
Yeah,
corner.
So how does the brook conflict with?
right through the middle of it.
No, but I mean, how does that impact a decision that we'd have to make?
Depends on.
Well,
where it is.
theoretically, it could flood and wreck the solar array and topple over 3 or 4 of them.
And was that
and
actually a
mess.
running stream or is that an intermittent stream?
When you look at it as a small stream, let's see.
But they're not calling
It comes
out,
up as a small stream
and
corridor.
they're not calling out any wetlands
I
there.
don't know what their definition is on that, I won't lie.
Although, I mean, if you,
They still have to do their, hold on, I'm gonna look at my notes from the last meeting, from their presentation.
But they haven't done any of
No.
their, you know.
Which ones? They have to do a couple of different ones.
would
Immediate
you
work
turn
is
on
to
wetlands,
continue.
Chris?
Yeah, that's where it's, there it is, I was like, yeah, I know.
They have to do threatened endangered species, wetland evaluation.
So
They
again,
have
here,
done
right
one.
here's the hook in the road, just so we keep our bearings.
And what is that, Chris?
That's where my cursor is, right, is my cursor up there?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the road that we keep looking at.
Yeah.
Remember how it made that weird hook? That's the hook in the road, so we're talking about, they're looking at in this area here.
And what is that pinkish, that whole pinkish?
That is a
Small
small
stream.
stream corridor. I don't know what that means by this mapping, I don't know what the definition is, but that's one of the,
It's
no-
not-
one of
It's not a
the,
river corridor.
one of the known constraints that was laid out when they built this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to be super blunt, but if I look at that as a layman, that is not a preferred site.
I agree.
I don't know enough to say that, but if you're asking me to make a, based on the information I've seen so far, and I was just trying to say, okay, let's look for, you know, it doesn't mean it couldn't be good, but,
Well, what are you basing?
because I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well, so if we're trying to look at, you know, land that, and it's true, it cuts through that no man's land, but if you have a small stream corridor running right down through the middle of it, my sense would be, given what's happening with our climate and our waterways and everything else, I wouldn't want to put any infrastructure someplace that's in the middle of what could be a flood zone.
I absolutely agree
I
with
mean,
you.
I mean, and it's an uneducated assessment. I don't know enough to say more, but if you're asking me to do this based on the little that I do know,
Well, we
you
do
know.
need to find more, because right
Yeah.
here, I'm looking, we need to know more about
and
it.
but
because
it could be that no water has flowed there in forever. I don't
That's
know.
what I wanted to show you. There's, I mean, these are wetlands here
Yeah.
and wetland buffers. Now, the stream itself is not a wetland. I mean, there's just more to find out. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
saying one way or the other.
No.
I mean, it's possible that you can have a stream running through one of these fields. That is possible. I mean, they have there's sheep that graze within the fields. I mean, it depends on how it's laid out. I don't think it would exclude it, but we just need to find more.
Well,
Find
When
out
you
more.
say we need to find out more, who do we find that out from?
From this mapping process,
Well, that
from
and the,
environment and site visits and
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 this,
how one could adjust. You know,
The site.
what are the options?
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
the
don't
layout.
don't put the stanchions right here, put them over here,
Right.
if you can.
Right. I don't know. Sometimes they're designed and they have to be just how you know.
I mean, part of it could be that we can look at the maps and make recommendations to move it somewhere else within that land, since they do
Exactly.
own a number of acres. I mean, the fact that we have an actual preferred area or a recommended area along the top of that piece of land? Is it something where they can site it there and it still isn't visible from the road and still quite?
But we also don't know, this could be like a dead end.
Against that is, as a planning commission, you should not be helping recite
Yeah.
anything from a house to a solar pit to a landfill.
It's a yes, no on
Yes.
Okay, so how do you, given that we're gonna have an enhanced energy plan where we're making decisions about where people can put stuff, how do we do that when we're looking at a map that tells us this is where we think it's best to put a solar?
Right. So you could don't look at it as a project specific. If you're looking at preferred sites, you take this map, you decide where you feel that everything from whatever your criteria is, from aesthetics to what possible constraints there are, and you either pick actual parcels or you draw in physical areas and say, these are our preferred sites. This is where we as an energy committee, as a town, would like to see possible solar development in our community.
That's why
And then
if you-
from that, let the developer come in and say, this is the exact spot I want to place my panels.
That's why, that gets back to the question of what do we do now with this
Yeah.
particular
Right.
project? Because already we're like, well, maybe it doesn't work here, but
Right.
that's not what we're
No.
being asked to
And
do.
what we should really be doing is zooming out on this map, bigger than this, right? You know, maybe not that big, but like, but you know what I
It takes
mean?
a second to catch up.
Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we shouldn't be looking at 1 acre.
Oh, yeah.
We should be looking at, you know, given this
You're gonna have no
overall
constraints just for
and all these overlays.
So I want to make
And
another
drawing.
comment about, where it showed a possible small stream. That could be a dead-ended drainage ditch that is there because of that's been poorly graded and they've been dumping stuff.
Right.
So you don't, and it's maybe could just be water sort of trapped there.
I mean, the fact that it
we
comes up
don't
the tailing
know.
of a wetland,
And I don't
who knows?
know, and I don't know where that
So that's where
information
the
came
map
from.
fails.
Right,
The
that's why you
reality,
need to
it
go to
is
site
not,
visit.
it is an indication, but it is not
Right, that's why you
the full
really need.
picture.
Do we have the resources to take a look at all the land in and around Bristol to make a determination what is a preferred site?
That's what's gonna happen.
That's
what
what
the
these
I mean,
enhanced
can you
energy plan is.
actually, do we have the,
Probably not. Well,
that's,
there aren't a tremendous amount in Bristol.
there is not.
No.
Well, that's the other thing I think you'll find,
This is
No, I
once you
remember-
look at
I
all,
remember that, but I'm just, wondering,
Yeah.
as part of this discussion with the stream going through,
Right.
it seems to me that this gets horrendously complicated.
it.
It
And that
Absolutely is.
and that the way to perhaps address this as planning commission is, okay, we have these criteria. You guys will write that. Okay, you write the criteria on a case-by-case basis, rather than making an attempt in 2019 to designate all of these particular areas as preferred sites. I think it gets way too complicated, and plus the fact that we have changing topography. May be flood one year, maybe not the next year.
Well,
So-
which is why a preferred site wouldn't be in a flood zone.
yeah.
Well, all I'm saying,
Normally.
all I'm saying is that the planning commission gives us a lot more, a lot of ways to go on a particular site, because it's now, we're looking at it now, and here's the criteria, does it meet these criteria?
And that's all what we're trying to lay out is that criteria.
But
And then set those,
I understand.
but part of that criteria is
We got
laying
6
out
sites.
those preferred areas.
But we happen to have a proposal that's come before us,
Before we have criteria.
before we have the criteria in place, which gets back to, do you wait to have the full enhanced plan done and approved, or do you adopt interim regulations that would allow for this kind of development in the meantime?
Given the complications, I think we gotta wait.
What complications?
What? We've got a little stream going through
Yeah, you're
here?
looking at one map.
Well, we're
that is
talking
not
about this
necessarily an
one, we're
indication.
talking about this one solar project, are we not?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we have not set what our criteria are as of yet. These folks are doing that. So how can we possibly say, okay, this is a preferred site when we don't have the solid criteria?
So
Plus the fact, in this particular site, it seems to be somewhat compromised. I don't know, I'm not an expert.
Well, that was the question I posed.
right.
That's
Exactly the question
that's the
we started with,
conversation.
which is,
Yeah,
what do we do?
and that's,
Do we
Fine.
determine, we either say no to them because we don't have regulations?
Or tell them
we-
they'll have to wait.
Or we adopt interim regulations, or we do more due diligence and look at the site using either our own eyes and these maps,
Well,
or
it's-
the advice of someone who might have more experience with the site.
So the other piece with adopting interim is you still have to author them. You still would need to discuss them. So you're a month or two out on that alone.
Yeah.
So by going that route, I mean, and then you guys are 4 to 6 months out.
Working in a different direction potentially.
Right, but what my point is it's not like you can adopt something, you're gonna adopt anything tonight.
No.
So, but it's which way do you wanna go? Do you wanna have something resolved in a couple months or in 4 to 6 months? Does it make sense to do something short-term that may or may not actually, my question is, even if you said yes today to this project, okay, here's our criteria, now we want to do this criteria. By the time you, and they go, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Was it worth putting together interim criteria, or does it make more sense to, somebody else is already doing the work, you're gonna reinvent the wheel?
Well, if
or we
you,
just say, yeah, write a letter, say, sure, go ahead.
no, I don't think we should. I
That's
mean, I
just
think we
another
shouldn't.
option.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I'm just throwing out the options, that's
I don't-
all.
Personally, I don't think we should do that. But I am sensitive to a first proposal like this, and sort of exercising our ability to consider a project like this, right? Without putting it off. So I guess what I'm suggesting is I'd like to see solar in Bristol, and I want to be as accommodating as possible without doing the wrong thing for the environment of our town. So I want to be encouraging without being flip. So I think being flip would be just to say, okay, we grant you preferred site status. I don't think we're gonna
you
do
can't do
that.
that.
I would be opposed to that. Yes, you can.
Well,
We
Yes, you could.
Technically, we could.
We
That's
could.
what they asked us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't think we should do
I
that.
don't think we should do that.
So what I'm hoping for is something in between, I guess. So that we could give indication of our interest in the project, and our commitment to learning more or doing more in the meantime that might facilitate it, while finding out that, wanting to know that Green Lantern is indeed interested in pursuing it still themselves. It sounds like yes. And have them let us know if something comes up in their own continued studies that would stop the deal. And then thereby letting us revert back to our regular enhanced energy plan process that will take longer and would offer more due diligence to the idea of the whole thing.
I don't know if they continue their studies at the same time. I think
don't
they're on,
think so.
I believe they're on pause until
From-
they get the permissions, because it's an
So
investment
it-
to do that.
Yeah.
They've done a certain amount, they've
Right.
actually
Yeah,
done
it is.
more than what they normally do, I
Right.
think, because of who owns the land. But I think it's on pause now until the decision is made by the planning commission
Yes.
and by the town and by the energy committee. So one suggestion I have is perhaps, is this something that we could, with our meetings, looking at the enhanced energy plan, is this something that we can ask Andrew about?
First.
And get a little bit of information and sort of work on something like that to maybe knock it, do that couple of months, and it's gonna be something that we can keep in the enhanced
Right.
plan and work with that.
I
So that's something,
speed
and
up
that's
that
something we'd have to
project.
ask him about.
Yeah, absolutely.
With-
I
without
was thinking
endangering
that
the time
too,
that we have
because
on
it
ours.
doesn't seem to make sense to me for us to do an interim. I mean, I think that we can pursue and sort of research and look into this project more through the work that you're doing, and kind of just be more informed about it,
Yeah.
and learn about exactly what we have there, but without actually developing interim
Regulations.
Yeah.
Could it be-
criteria. I don't think we should do that. I
Could we
think that
call it, could we apply criteria that we agree to use that maybe isn't, you know, sort of put forward as a regulation? And knowing that it would be,
I don't even
Or
know if
would
we
that
need
just
to
be-
have criteria. I
Right,
think
well, that's what I was
Hang on a
gonna
second. If you guys do pursue some work with Andrew and you start to shape our criteria and you get far along in that process in say like, 6 weeks or so, to say, you know what? There's still work to be done here, but based on how far we've gotten and what we feel comfortable with so far, if we apply those draft criteria to this project, we feel comfortable that this would become a preferred site. And based on that information, we write a letter. So it's not a flip letter, it's telling them,
We
we're not
apply
gonna put in
criteria.
interim criteria, we are gonna pursue our work. It won't be as quick as you perhaps would like, which is ASAP, we're gonna do this, but it doesn't mean you have to wait until the entire enhanced energy plan is in place.
but we would be applying criteria that these
Yes.
guys have developed.
It's just that we wouldn't
We don't need to
publish them,
We don't need to
approve them,
adopt
document
it,
them. We would be looking at them and saying, we like where you've got so far, you guys are comfortable with the work you've done. We don't anticipate that the criteria that we apply in a draft format to this area are going to change so much so that this area would lose its designated preferred status based on the final product. But then it's informed,
I
as
agree.
opposed to, hey, let's just take a feel on this. And it's also not saying, sorry, no, we don't want to encourage solar in the town,
Right.
which I also agree with you. It's awesome that they want to do this. And if everything else, sort of plays out and it is a good site, yeah, we want that. It's just, it would be hard if it turns out that after your whole project was over, that it was actually not a good site, and we
Right.
wouldn't have given it preferred status.
So our meeting next week, we could talk specifically about that with Andrew.
Yeah.
Saying we have this project that's come before us.
I think that's where I was heading. I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea. I mean,
So the question is, would we have to do anything formal? Like, let's just play that out. You guys
So
meet.
would we
and-
need to do anything formal, since we can just write a
Yeah.
letter right now,
well, I don't
if we
think,
wanted to?
Wait,
I mean,
we could do that. It would be not a great idea.
no, it wouldn't. I'm not saying it would
But
be.
if let's just say you guys meet and you prioritize this part of your work so that you have something that this commission could use
Yeah.
as a set of criteria in order to review this particular project and
like a case study
Yeah.
that no one knows about.
and grant it preferred
Except those-
site status
Those guys.
as an exception. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the nuts and bolts of this. Let's assume that we go through and we come to the conclusion 2 months from now that this has got a good shot at being a preferred site, and we encourage you guys to continue, and women, to continue to develop this. The nuts and bolts of it, do you have somebody from the state that actually walks
No.
the land or that does a survey?
do.
So,
or-
Yeah.
so as far as for the preferred area, preferred
Yeah.
site, no, it's designated preferred site or it's not. That's it.
So
That's
what
our
we're
call?
That's our call.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're granting it preferred site status. It is already not a on this map, it's called primary solar
Yeah.
resource siting area. So the state has designated areas within Bristol that they already know are preferred, okay? So let's just make sure
Just
we
based on
understand.
criteria of that type of.
It is very high level.
Production.
I want to be very clear that it basically, is there enough sun and are there any immediate, is there wetlands, is there farm,
So these maps are a starting point.
absolutely.
Yes.
And I
So
think
we're offering it an exception. So by saying you're a preferred site, it does not mean that somehow the land got better all of a sudden. What you're doing is saying, we recognize this as an exception and we will give you preferred site status for based on some
Yeah.
criteria.
And the company still has to go through a lot.
Yes.
right, on their own.
Yes.
I guess that was really my
Yes.
point.
Yeah, they still have to go through the
State and
They do the
public
whole
utility.
environmental
That's
assessment.
right,
Still has
that's
to do
what,
it.
yeah.
And we can put other criteria on there, other stipulations, that if we walk the land and we had experience with certain things, we might say, we might have particular things, right, to do with the project. I mean, you put stipulations on other.
I don't know, this isn't like a conditional
I don't
permit.
know.
I think with,
No.
I think that with the, yeah.
Okay, so that they handle
Public Service
everything.
Board.
Okay.
My understanding is that the end product of the enhanced energy plan and all that stuff for these preferred sites is just an overlay map on top of our town. Preferred,
Yeah,
not
so
preferred.
Here's Salisbury's, the one that I emailed out to you all. This is the same GIS maps that we were looking at that I mailed out to the town of Bristol. And Salisbury has decided, for whatever reason, they've called this the preferred area with conditions. That's this spot right here.
Through their energy plan.
And they're
Through this plan, it's identified later on in the solar.
And they're
the
saying
landfill.
with conditions, so they're
Yeah.
saying with, so they've added something.
Yeah, so if you look, and again, I'm just browsing through it again, trying to get my head back around it. So this, they refer to this in their solar siting piece. They've said that this is their preferred spot, and this is their,
Landfill.
yeah, that's the old landfill. So that's just one way to do it is, again, maybe the 116 South Corridor is the preferred, anything that falls in there,
Right.
it doesn't, and then they call out, it can't be prime ag, it can't have wetlands.
Those are the conditions.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was saying.
So what they call out,
We can put those on.
Right, not site by site,
So
not
they-
project by project,
No,
but
as a general
overall.
criteria.
Constraints.
Yeah.
right,
Or
so,
conditions.
so what they do is they talk about siting, they wanna know, you read here, here's what they consider good characteristics of a good site and a bad site, and then it gets into scale, and then later on it gets into screening. They spend a lot of time on screening, which I get, but, so, this is what they did, and then again, not saying this is the only one I've got, so this is the only one I have for
So they
reference.
use this in theory to look at any site, not just offering preferred site like a waiver, the way we're looking at it.
Right. They basically said, and then if you read through, they that chunk we just saw on the map, they said, if we're gonna give anyone preferred site status, that's not the landfill, which is preferred site, here it is. Like I said, we may say that whole 116 South
That might
Corridor.
override like an agricultural soil or
Well, no, that's the
Yeah.
constraints they
Yeah.
put on that. It's preferred, except if it's in agricultural soil.
So let's say you have a 1,000 acres, you say, yep, anywhere in this 1,000 acres you can put solar. But 500 acres of it's prime ag, so take that out. It's just a big overlay, and as long as it doesn't have any other constraints on
Oh, I
it,
see.
it could fall inside of.
Little pieces. It's not gonna be that whole area.
Yeah, so you're not trying to draw this crazy map that goes around all the prime ag and the wetlands. It's, here's the area, we think this would work for
I'd
us.
like to encourage solar in
Exactly.
this general
It-
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of downtown.
Yeah,
Right.
right, it would make more sense to encourage it, like,
Yeah.
wherever. North 160, whatever we choose, or whatever you guys choose. And then you say, then you lay it out here, it's like, you don't want it to be, what are they, like areas of forest land that need to be clear cut, things like that. I mean, so there can be some constraints laid upon, so I think that's where
These guys are gonna get to.
yes.
So I think, I'd like to make a proposal saying that I think we need to ask Green Lantern to wait, and we can, for several months, and then we check back in after we get feedback from where
Yeah.
you are, and we just have more information to work with, and see where you are with the plan.
Can I make an amendment to that?
That wasn't
It's not a
that wasn't
motion, sorry.
official.
So,
motion.
so what you could say to keep them encouraged is that we're currently working on an enhanced plan.
Right, and they know that.
And we would, like you said, we would maybe use their project as a case study, and we would set preference on working on the enhanced plan for them, or something like that. Maybe not as much as that. Something that it sounds encouraging to them, as opposed to, could you just wait 3 months?
No, I think they understand where we're coming from.
Well, they don't know they're working on the enhanced plan.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they do?
I
Okay.
spoke with him.
Yeah, and I can grade
They
that in
sat
email
through
as
the
well.
proposal,
Okay.
they were here when Andrew came.
Oh, right, that's right.
Adam was sitting here.
No,
Yeah.
not Adam.
Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah, oh, Andrew was sitting, yeah, that was when we talked about it on our end.
So I think it's, and that seems like that would satisfy most people's concerns, except for we haven't heard from Bill yet. And I knew you have something to say.
Well, particularly, but I think the fact that this site is well away from the I'm in at a slightly lower elevation with land that's not productive. I think it has potential, serious potential. I would like to know more about this stream as Bill has raised and others, to see how other towns or other situations where there's been a solar array with the stream, how they've handled it. There may be some protocol. And it also may be that this particular stream is not run very hard very often. So I think what you're proposing is reasonable. I do want to be clear, though, we should ask them what we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, namely, is there some urgency on their part? If there is, that creates more of a bind. I'm hoping they'll say they'd like to go sooner, but they can wait.
And sort of maybe hoping that there can't, I think we've come to the conclusion that there's nothing that we can do for them immediately. We are not comfortable right now, and it wouldn't be good for any solar project. Like, it wouldn't be good practice, period, to do that. Is to say, hey, we're just gonna go with a gut feeling here and say, yep, sure. And that's nothing personal. That's just best practices as the planning commission. We don't do that.
I think it's fine for us to let them know that we're interested in this project.
Yes,
And we
but
just
then
stay very
we just
positive
need
about
more
it.
information. We need to get a little further along in our enhanced energy planning to make an informed decision.
Well, in order to apply criteria.
Yeah, exactly. And just like we don't have anything to go on, and they don't want us to make an uninformed decision.
Well,
I mean, they do. But,
yeah, they do.
yeah. But I don't think they can expect us to. That would be, And then
we were clear that this was our first.
Yeah.
That I think they knew when they talked with us.
Well, and I think what we're proposing for them is a decent compromise, is to say, hey, we should be in a position to give you an answer one way or the other, right?
We do have the
In a
advice of
couple
the
of months.
consultant. This is good. We're in play. So back to the stream idea, like in our own due diligence, do we have resources available to us to look at that particular question?
Well, I think these guys will be able to, because when they're working on the plan.
I know, but about the
Okay,
stream.
can you use that specific one?
I'm talking about the stream.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could come down to.
I mean, does Kristen Underwood, could we walk out there with her and she would be like, in my experience, this is this, or learning more from the Rathbun family about what the nature of it is.
And I think we can touch base with that. Find out from Andrew and or Adam. Do they have can they point us in the direction? How would they approach that? They work with all the other towns. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. I mean, other towns have done this. So I can reach out if you'd like, or you folks can, and just find out how would they suggest we look at these.
What's a small stream corridor, really?
Well, I think that is all in the GIS information, and that information can be accessed through the process that the committee is going through.
Because they list known constraints on their mapping.
Yeah, it's the same thing on the A&R website.
So it's really looking at that. How would you apply these, and what resources are available to, or what processes do you normally use? Do you just say, yep, that's what the map says, and we go with it, or can as lay folks, can we walk out and go, yep, that's a stream?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not exactly qualified to make a judgment about a stream at any given moment. But I don't want to, because of that, say, nope, not going to do it.
Correct.
There's a pink finger coming down through there, and I don't know what that means.
Neither
do you.
And or what is how did that get defined as that?
Right.
What was utilized to classify as
I don't think we should get hung up on that right now at all. I don't think we should get hung up on that right now at all. I think we should let the committee get a little bit further into this and check back in, but let Green Lantern know what we're doing. And maybe would you?
I told Ralph and I emailed him Friday, Monday. I explained to him what we were doing. That we were reviewing this process, whether we were going to do interim, we're going to wait for the energy plan, which should be out 6 months out, and then I would get back in touch with them on tomorrow when I'm in the office.
So I think what I hear we're agreeing to is that is, just before we do that, so what I understand is that we're going to prioritize the siting section of the enhanced energy plan work so that we could have draft criteria that we could apply to this project in order to consider preferred site status sooner rather than waiting for the full
plan.
enhanced energy plan. Is that what we're?
Well,
It's not-
I don't know. I think they need to go whatever process that.
Yeah.
Well, what are you talking about then?
Well, we're talking about, they're moving forward on,
No.
I know,
Well-
understanding how to develop preferred sites in
Right.
Bristol. So,
As a priority, like starting with that first.
well,
as
I
opposed
think,
to any other
no,
part.
no,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a project run, a driven process.
Correct.
It should be the constraints or the geography, the overlays, the constraint-driven process. So we are gonna check back in a couple months, or a time period, I guess, a couple months. Do you feel that there's momentum that a couple months?
There's momentum. There's definitely momentum. As far as how long it's going to take, I can't
don't
tell you
know.
that.
But why don't we say we're going to, at our March meeting, perhaps revisit? If the subcommittee feels like you have enough, you have
We'll keep you
information to
updated.
share, and that we could then evaluate it as a board.
As a whole, the whole energy, enhanced energy.
No,
plan.
just this one.
That's what I said, so.
No, I know,
we're addressing
but
that
their
section.
work
Hold
shouldn't
on.
be driven
Yeah.
by this particular project.
They're just hoping that
I'm just
it-
talking
in a-
about the timing of
Yeah.
the different parts of the enhanced energy
Right.
plan.
Yeah, but
I-
you're not changing anything in how you were intending to approach
No.
your work in order to accommodate this project. We're just saying that in a couple of months, there's a reasonable expectation that you might have some draft criteria in place that we could use. You're not saying, we're gonna focus on creating criteria
What if
for this
they don't?
project. But
What if they don't?
Then we
then we
wait
tell them that
longer.
they have to wait.
We just wait longer.
I mean,
And that's the risk.
this is treated just like any other development. I mean, to be honest with you, I look at it like subdivision regs. I can't base those on a specific, one person can knock on the door and we need to have those in order to do a project. No, it's the bigger piece. You need to implement a piece, and then the projects that qualify. Those that don't. And you can push your focal point on which parts of the town plan or energy plan you work on. Which components, based on interest. But you can't focus on a specific project or application.
I think if you turn it around and you think about it the sort of the opposite way, right? In terms of giving Ralph an answer at Green Lantern, is we are not comfortable giving you, a letter right now.
Correct.
But we're also not forcing you to wait until the enhanced energy plan is completed necessarily. Our hope is that we will be able to give you a decision sooner than that. And so we're anticipating that work might take 6 months. We might be able to tell you yes or no in 2 months.
Yeah.
But we're not ready to do it right now.
That's
So it's like
exactly
it's turning it
right,
around the
yeah.
other way and saying,
Yeah.
there were 2 options here. And actually we're presenting you with option C. So there was A, we're gonna say yes or no right now. And then there was B, you have to wait until we're completely finished with our enhanced energy plan. We're offering you C to say, we're going to try to give you an answer sooner, but only if that subcommittee feels ready to give us draft criteria that we can use.
Yep.
If they come back to us in 2 months and say, we're still in total draft mode, I'm sorry, you might have to wait 3 months. But we would check back in again. In other words, we're gonna try to give you an answer as soon as we possibly can.
That's the
Worst case scenario, it is when the enhanced energy plan is in final form. We don't think that'll be the case.
Right.
But then it's taking it completely away from their project.
Yeah, right.
And just saying, we're gonna try to accelerate it for you, we can't promise.
And there's no set timeline or way that we're looking at this. We started looking at the draft, but Andrew said, do you want to look at the draft first, or do you want to start looking at the maps first? We can say, we can continue with the draft, and then when we start to look at the maps, instead of looking at biomass or wind
Right.
siting,
Yes,
we can say, hey, we'd like to look at solar first.
yes, that's what I meant by
Yes.
prioritizing that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, it's
Like
not
starting
something, it's
there,
not something
as
where
opposed
we're,
to randomly
That's
get
right.
into it at some
Yeah.
point and be like,
Yeah.
oh, now we're.
But is it critical to do that though, to jumble things around to serve this one project? Is it critical to do that?
No, but if it happens to
I'm
work
saying
out
it's
that
a
way, it's
gesture.
there.
But that's,
Yeah.
so I was asking if it was a critical thing to do
Right.
or not.
If
That's
Andrew
all.
feels like we shouldn't change the process that he's
Yeah.
presented to you, then don't. If it's possible to look at solar and siting citing criteria that could inform us around this, then that would be great.
Because you want to do it in the way that it's supposed to be. There's a
Yeah.
logical
Oh, yeah.
progression to it.
Absolutely.
But I think that if you present Green Lantern with this reality,
Absolutely.
then you are actually able to be encouraging and say,
I agree.
the fact that you came to us with this, our layman's opinion is, yeah, this could be cool. We are not ready to give you an informed answer, but we care enough about your proposed project that we're going to try to speed up things where we can.
Because again, even if you were to say, yep, you want to do it today, then the next piece that goes to the select board, and is anyone here ready to sit at a select board meeting and justify why you said yes to it in front of those 5 folks who have to represent? No, that's exactly, as a group, I believe you're not there. So, and I think the approach that you've laid out is perfect. And I think that's absolutely the way we should convey it to Ralph at Green Lantern.
Okay, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
I agree.
Do you want a formal motion?
I think
No.
we should.
No?
Okay, we're gonna need a motion,
Then
that's
let's
fine.
not do that.
Okay,
Then,
Are you okay with it? Okay, then we're good.
all right,
We
we
did a
did
straw poll.
Yep.
straw poll. All right,
I'm just gonna
So
write
are
some
we gonna
notes.
get on a letter to these folks sometime in the next several days, is that?
we're not sending them a letter.
no,
No, Chris
Chris
is gonna
is just
talk
talking
to
to
them.
them.
Yeah, I will communicate the outcome of this meeting with Ralph.
Excellent, good.
Tomorrow. When we,
It's keeping it
When,
unofficial.
the letter that we're referring to is an official letter.
No, I
saying-
just wanna know how to communicate.
Yes, that won't be until we are at the next phase. Okay, you're writing some notes down, all the things you said. Because I didn't write it down. All right. Maybe we take a little break. Do you need a break, Sue?
No, just keep going.
Okay. So would, Ian, would you like to tell us about the landfill project that's going on?
Sure.
That we don't really have any say in the matter, but it'd be nice to know about.
well, we have say.
Okay.
I'll just read from the proposal. So Victor Veve, he was at the meeting, obviously, when they proposed the 150 kilowatt one. He talked to us and said, he'd like to talk to the Energy Committee about the potential of putting solar, since we're looking at this project, 150 kilowatt, what would the solar look like on the closed landfill? So I'm just going to read from his PowerPoint that he showed the Energy Committee a couple weeks ago. So they're looking at a 500 kilowatt system, so much larger than the one out on 116. Be ground mount, doesn't move, it's not on a tracker. It's a ballast design, so it doesn't penetrate the ground, which is why they can put it on immediately as opposed to waiting 10 years for the town landfill to settle. So there's a definite advantage for that.
How did they,
It literally just sits on top and it's weighed down. Nothing is drilled
so
down.
there's no posts?
No, they sit on it's metal frames
Oh.
that they're all mounted to.
But they're heavy enough that they just stay with it.
Correct. And they've done this on other landfills.
Right.
They're stationary probably, they're not trackers.
Correct.
That is correct.
Yeah. It says it'll occupy approximately 3.5 acres of the property, which is a good section of it. It'll be 2,250 panels, 15 rows.
That'll fit in there.
The panels are
They're smaller.
small. They're how many panels per,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
what is the bigger?
2,250 panels will be installed on 15 rows running east to
Oh, I guess
west.
maybe it's just a solid row
Yeah.
then. It's not.
Electricity from a renewable source that will be fed back into the local utility grid. It's cost-effective net meter credits. The town will be one of the primary beneficiaries, so we can choose how it's used. Similar to the 150 kilowatt project, they don't have any off-takers for that, so we could choose to use that for town or offer it to the community. Renewable energy credits that are local utility will retain and benefit, making the project 100% renewable. Project will be designed with care, site best manner, blah blah blah. Sited to limit visibility. Closed landfill is an ideal location, be well hidden when the project is complete. It's also obviously a state preferred site.
Right.
They permit the project, no out-of-pocket cost to the town. Engineering will be done in conjunction with the state of Vermont, various agencies that govern the project, PUC, PSB, ANR, DEC, and other local agencies. Initial work will be environmental and electrical design. Phase 2 focuses on final engineering plans. Application process for 248, 45-day notice is posted online for public comment. Application for a certificate of public good. Comment period remains open until all comments are dealt with. Full permitting process will take about 9 months. They did a little net metering overview. Net benefit to the town, include the town as a primary beneficiary of the net meter credits, pay a lease or purchase to the town for use of the solar site. So it's about $5,500 a year for the first 20 years, and I think it goes up after that to like 65. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but it actually covers the costs of the monitoring that we need to do at the landfill anyway. And then, this is all just from their
And that monitoring that is done because it's a closed landfill and they have
Correct.
to monitor.
We pay around
methane.
6,000, I think, a
Oh,
year
really?
to monitor.
So would that just be assumed that that would pay that, or is that?
It looks about the same. Looking at the budget that I looked at the select board meeting for that cost and then the cost of their lease, it's about the same. We actually he said that we would get the lease cost of them leasing the land from us. There's also a solar tax credit that we get, and we also get the property tax benefit as well from them using the site.
Okay. Plus we get the energy.
Yes, and that's more complicated because it's I don't fully understand it. I'm trying to still understand it. Let's see if they have a slide about that. It's with regard to the group net meter. It's a power purchase agreement, and let me see where it is. Okay, so how does it work? The town will receive a credit on their bill, meaning from Green Mountain Power.
Right.
At the same time, they will receive an invoice from the solar system owner. The town will retain a portion of the credits and pay the system owner the balance of the credit's value. That portion is kept, is then turned into the discount. It's very complicated. It's like a certain percentage. And I've talked to Waterbury, the town manager there, because they've done a couple projects with Green Lantern, and it's pretty complicated. Like they pay a very small utility bill, but they pay a very large bill to Green Lantern Solar. It's like a 10%, 90%. They pay 90% back to Green Lantern Solar because they're essentially getting credited for the power that their solar array produces.
Right.
One of the complications there is that if you have a single meter, it's much easier to manage. Waterbury had a whole bunch of meters, and they decided to say, okay, when this meter for, let's say, a water pump is completely taken care of, trickle over and do this meter, then trickle over and do this meter, which got really complicated.
Okay.
So what he recommended to me, if we do agree to do a project like this, is that you set a percentage that you wish the meters that the town owns to then go for. So like our pump down here, which is the highest electricity usage, we could say we want 60% of the solar on the landfill to pay for that meter, and we want 10% to pay for the lighting, and so we would have to set that up.
So does the bill go up or down?
It should. The bill goes down, but we have to pay Green Lantern Solar because we're getting credited for the energy that
So what's the net?
I know
Is it-
it's not. It should.
Should be minus.
It should be minus, and we do get the money from the lease of the land.
Right.
But it's not like we're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars more because they're doing this. I mean, he said it's like a $2 million project to put something like this in. So they're getting the money from the energy being produced there and getting paid for, getting credited by Green Mountain Power. We have to pay that. So we're still paying bills. but we get a feel-good factor. We also get a small reduction, and over time it grows.
Because they must be getting a profit, or they
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing it.
Pay per year for electricity.
Say that again?
How much does Bristol pay per year for electricity?
The average is about $5,900 a month. That's what our bill is.
So about 75,000 a year. So with Green Mountain, are we looking at 70,000 or, 10% decrease or
It
something?
seems like that, yeah. That's what Victor talked about. It's not like you're knocking 50% off your bill, or your money that
Okay.
you're paying. It's
Well,
a small
We're not gonna
percentage.
go up.
No.
The point is, okay.
No.
No one would be doing it.
Well, you could do it for ecological reasons, okay? But
Yeah.
they are doing
Yeah.
that in
That's
California.
true.
They actually pay more because of the solar, but they're willing to do that. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm reaching out. I've talked to Waterbury, and I've had a message from Springfield. They've worked with Green Lantern Solar. They liked the work they did. They had some concerns as their projects went on. One of them being the complication of the meters and the way that they did that. In terms of, and I don't want to. Do I get into specifics about the company? I mean, it's
You don't need to.
okay. But generally, they were pretty happy. One of the things, and this is regarding preferred sites, is that in Waterbury, it was the village of Waterbury where they put it was in a very sort of beautiful area, and at least the person I spoke to regretted doing that. Everyone was excited about doing it, and I think it was sort of more project driven, and the thought wasn't put in. And now it's very visible, and a lot of people sort of are upset about that, even though it's producing all this green energy. It's, you drive by it all the time.
How large was their system, Waterbury's?
I think it was, usually it's 500 kilowatts, is the maximum you can do.
Oh,
or I
is
think
it?
it's maybe 750. It's
Okay.
about the same size.
Okay.
I'm interested in this, thank you, that's really
Yeah,
really helpful.
yeah.
So that's where it is. I'm doing more research. I want to find out more about the company and just what people have.
Where
people's
is
thoughts
the
about
town
that.
in this process? So the select board has approved this? Or they
No,
don't have
not
to
really.
approve it, but they know about it. I mean, they have to do
Well,
something.
they will have to approve because
Yeah.
they own the land.
Yeah, well, okay.
They know that the Energy Committee is currently looking at that proposal. That's where they are. We presented
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
The next stage, in terms of for Victor, would be getting permission from the town to look at our Green Mountain Power electricity records. They have a agreement with Green Mountain Power that if we grant them permission, they can look in detail and see how to balance out what the system would produce and match that
Right.
against our meters. He did say that
Yeah.
the more meters you have, the more complicated it gets. And we
Right.
have a lot of meters.
Are there less convoluted ways of getting a credit towards the usage than getting a credit from Green Mountain Power and then paying
I don't know.
the others back? And
I don't know
because that
enough
seems
about
way more
I
complicated
know.
than it should be.
It's very complicated.
This,
Well, one of the things would be if we built it ourselves. If we outright owned it,
Yeah.
as opposed to having another company come and lease the land
Mhm.
and then take the credits that we're making. If we built it ourselves, that's how you.
Like you hire Smith and McLean to put it in.
Correct. Yeah. And if we had a budget to do that, that would be the way to do it.
does the power created by the solar array go directly into the grid?
Yes.
Okay.
Feeds the grid and then it's doled out to whatever
Right.
meter we wish.
Yeah.
And if we could say, depending how big the school is in terms of the offtake that they have, you could directly put it to the school and not touch any of the other meters, maybe making the process simpler.
Does the proximity make it simpler? I mean, I don't
No,
know.
it would need 3-phase that would have to be put in at that location, so that there'd be cost involved with that.
And then you gotta think, if you need to put it. In some cases,
The
you
thing
have
about
to
the
put
school
new
is that
power.
Bristol doesn't own the
Right.
school.
Right, yeah,
It's a
the-
five
The
town.
three-phase.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the
We'd
three.
have
So
to
we need
find
four
out
transmission
just
lines
our
through there,
program.
probably at Pine Street.
Yeah, so you need to think about that and what that looks like.
Yeah, their lease term was 20 years, extensions to 35. I think the panels are rated at 35. Year 1 to 20 is $5,000 a year lease. Year 21 to 25, 577.7. Year 26 to 30 is 6,700. So it goes up as it gets paid off.
So what about after 30? What happens?
Oh, you would be.
They in their contract they would completely remove it and return the land back to if we wanted them to. Or they could swap out panels if panels had greatly improved in 30 years.
One would hope.
Hopefully they will. You know, we can take out all, 2,000 panels and put down 3, and that's powering the entire town.
This big.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing more research on it. I think the next stage would be I wanted to find out more about the company before, and just other people's thoughts before granting permission to look at our energy bills. And they're in no rush to do it. So I'm still on that path at the moment.
How do we assess a company's ability 30 years from now to have the wherewithal to make it whole again? I don't know how that's done. I mean, you can't create a bond now that is going to be in effect for the next 30 years. That would drive them into bankruptcy.
Well, you have a contract.
Right.
That's the best you can do.
Yeah,
Take
it's,
it to the
so it's
future.
20 years, and we have the option to do. So I guess we get to the 20-year point or close to
So it
that.
really comes down to solvency, in other words.
Yeah.
Is
Yep.
the outfit solvent and how long is
You hope it's not a boom.
Yeah.
Exactamente. Got it.
You could only sell a credit default swap.
We know about those.
Yeah, but the nice thing for us is that there's no cost for us. They handle all the costs.
On the front end, again, if the company goes goes bust,
Correct.
we've got a whole pile of panels we have to deal with. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's putting it.
So why would that
yes.
be, why would that be more of a risk than hiring and owning the panels ourselves?
it'd be the same risk.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that the Rathbun project, the town has no skin in the game.
Yeah,
Here, if they go bust, we got a whole pile of solar panels that we would potentially have to
Deal
figure
with.
out to do with.
yeah, right.
But we don't want to be in this running solar panels.
But that would be the same situation if we, as an entity, as a town, wanted to develop that site ourselves. You'd still be like buying panels, you'd still have to deal with them.
And you still have to have
Put the
technicians
money
that
up
would
front.
be on the payroll. I mean, it gets, it's
I mean, the
very
idea is
convoluted.
you're committing to a site that lends itself to solar.
Correct.
But we,
What's the
And
as you said,
also-
we can't deny, we can't say no.
Well,
Sure.
Well, I thought
town
you said
tend
no,
to say,
it's,
oh,
You
well,
can't lease them.
the town can get into the agreement or not get into the agreement.
right,
But because of the site,
Right.
if the state owned it, we wouldn't have a say.
Right.
right.
The only save that the town has is they own the dirt.
Yeah.
So they can say, nope, we don't want to get into a lease agreement with you, and that project's basically dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because I
As
asked
opposed
that
to a private
question.
owner.
No, I know that, I asked that question in the very beginning, and you said no, because it's in a landfill.
Well, it's guaranteed preferred site status
Oh.
because it's in a land.
Right.
And I can't imagine us contradicting that in our enhanced energy plan in some way,
No,
saying.
and it works. It works for us by having solar energy be produced because it's going to be part of the enhanced plan.
But again, so have they been down and done any studies on that particular hole?
They've done. They've run some numbers, and it looks positive. Once they get essentially they start to do more work, which involves more money when the town signs the lease. But they are looking at it, and they have documents that show it's going to produce enough for them to invest
Wow.
$2 million in the project. Yeah.
Just from having worked in that hole, literally worked in that hole, that, I mean, winter months, there's parts where you don't ever see sun.
There are plenty that do, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that would be the last spot in north.
Yeah.
Well, the filling has made a big difference in some areas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We've been able to cut up cars and stuff with fire.
Yeah,
So-
but he's been and run the numbers, and so it looks. I don't think if it didn't get sun, they wouldn't be looking at that,
Okay.
even if it was a preferred site. And it works, 20, 25, 35, and 50. We need to be at 90% renewable, and a big part of that is what each town is producing.
Yeah,
And at the moment, we're producing very little.
well, that's good.
But that's not to say we need to,
No, it's,
say, come on in, anybody.
right. Chris, when you email Green Lantern, the question that we had before, can you ask about the urgency, just urgency of the project? I didn't know if we,
Okay.
and the feelings about that.
So I'll convey that we're basically waiting for
criteria that will come from the Energy Committee. They're working on the enhanced plan. Hopefully they will be able to provide criteria that we may be able to utilize prior to the entire enhanced energy plan being completed. Does this impact the urgency of your project moving forward?
Are we going to go so far as to say that we will potentially revisit it at our March meeting, or are we keeping that internal?
It's public knowledge, but right now, I would.
Yeah.
If he's
If he asks, if they want more detail, we're looking at 4 to 6 months out before the enhanced energy plan is probably at that point.
Yeah.
No, to the point of where we could utilize it. So, just giving him a fair vision, and I'll see what the input is, and I will forward that out to, his response out to the whole group? Or just to, how do we disseminate that? I'll look into that too. How I can get that.
You can send the information to everyone, we just can't respond, talk to each other.
That's correct, it can be a community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do not reply all, and it's all good.
Right.
I couldn't remember.
Then it's not a meeting.
I'll send it out.
No. Okay, is there anything else anyone would like to say? Talk about?
Oh, I move we close the meeting.
Okay.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you, everybody.